The stream. It's me, your boy, Shane Saw. Man, I tell you what, this is a weird one. I'm here to read through a Discord channel that we have, which is the No DMs Allowed chat, which means I banished myself from this chat when I became the DM of Campaign 2 of Lawful Stupid, and obviously I have not gone inside there since. So, I don't know who wants this content or why, but I'm going to read through all the fan theories and all the nonsense that happened in this chat while I was away. And I'm pretty nervous about it because I assume that anytime there's a scenario where something's happening that I don't have direct control over it, bad things happen. So I will go through this chat and I'll just kind of give my reaction as I read through it. So I leave here. Hooray. Grant all access, rights, and privileges of the channel to Dwayne because I banished myself there. He was the old DM of Campaign 1. I took over Campaign 2. Now together we plan to harass and badger all shopkeepers. Yeah, that's... You rolled onto that dig. Huh? Okay. Yeah, talking about the end of Season 1 there with Griffo. Yeah, we're meant to talk about Campaign 2 here. Yeah. Dwayne, you wrangle him. It's a good place for predictions because you'll know he doesn't look at them and say, ha, great idea, I'll take it. You're right. I couldn't steal anything from this. Doing some QA stuff. I think Shane's great, but don't tell him. Tee hee. Ha, now I know, Doodles. I already... Yeah, we're talking about box seats. Hey, if you're a $50 patron or higher, you get to have a box seats, which means you can be there when we record every episode, see all the stuff that we cut out of it, see all the fun times we have and hang out with us. It's really totally worth. Devin says that as well. Yep. Yeah, me and Dwayne argue about rules. You hear Star's dogs bark. That's a treasure. Talking about some more Campaign 1 stuff. How do we feel about the proprietor? Dr. Robotnik with an extortion kink? Okay, sure. He's evil. Okay. He's felt every chance to do that D&D wise, but in my heart of hearts, I feel he is evil. Yeah. Makes me the heap jeeps. Okay, cool. Don't trust transformation. That's fair. If anybody is able to shapeshift or transform, just as a rule, you should not trust them. Because he did have things he was hiding, right? So that's I can get why you would. Abon coming through. I think he's kooky, not evil. Maybe mad, but not evil. Yeah. He's just a big guy. He's just got a lot going on. That's just a process. I think one of the old dudes is the Phoenix. I think when the Winchesters went back in time to kill one on Supernatural, he was disguised as a human. No, Phoenix isn't a people. I say that Finn dies saving Perry. How wrong you are. And then Perry cries because she loves him. Oh yeah, that was a thing for a while. People were shipping Finn and Perry. I forgot about that. Cyborg Finn for 2020. Ooh. Because he dies in shifted form, and Delmore does have that random robot head in his back. Guys, what if our ghost summoning sad boy is a ghost himself? Well, I think he's a member of the crew that sank Perry's ship, and all the ghosts are people Perry knows, and the gifts are him trying desperately to make amends. No. No, no, that's just not a thing. Personally, I think Iono and Davy Jones are exes fighting a custody battle over the souls of sailors. That's pretty close. Obviously not quite right, but when you play with Shane, death is just a bad decision away. Yeah, I mean, just like in life, death is just one bad decision away. Death is the end result. You spend your entire adventure staving off the inevitability. Dwayne talking about Shane's DMing style. No, people lived. Yeah, to be fair, Shane is the one who insists that death isn't the end. Death is never the end. If my boy die, Dwayne says, if my boy dies, his story is done. If any of my characters die, they are done. I don't tolerate failure in such a cowardice manner as death. Well, boy howdy. Sorry, Dwayne. Sorry, Dwayne. I didn't know you felt that way. We talked about it in session 0. It feels as if Delmore is going to go out while steering the ship, which is on fire, into the mouth of a very large sea monster to save his crew. That sounds pretty hype. Also, at the end of this campaign, there is a total of 9 overly powered and ridiculous personalitied crew members on their ship. I'll be disappointed. This picture for this D&D One Piece is redonkulously high. Yeah, they definitely were able to recruit some people and get some cool people on their ship. I would have liked to have seen that grow a little bit more in the journey to the mainland, but step 1, watch One Piece. Oh god, no, it's so long. Da, da, da. So what do you think is behind the door, guys? Goron, Lava, Trick-or-Treaters, Kristoff, Findle, Light. Yeah, we all know that without a doubt what lies in Kingdom Hearts is light. Yeah, Oslo's cold-blooded. Man, my hair looks dumb, so I'm wearing a hat, and I didn't want to fix it, but I'm gonna take it off because it keeps bumping the microphone. I don't want it to. Talk about Pokemon. Yeah, there's not like a lot. Like this chat wasn't policed really well in my absence, so there's a lot of just kind of talk. Couldn't Shane just make an alt account to look in here? It's a faith thing. You wouldn't do it. I didn't. Yeah, I didn't. I don't understand why Shane is allowed to use place for us to trade theories about the current campaign without the DM seeing it. Got it. Yeah, I don't want anybody to. I didn't steal anything. I didn't need to make an alt if I wanted to cheat and look at this. I just had it like notifications turned off, but like I had access the whole time. I just didn't because that's not any fun. Understand what Shane's like. Okay. Yep, you can scheme. Cool, cool, cool. You can plan a mutiny. Tap for captain. That's facts. Unpopular opinion, and Dwayne stopped me if I'm assuming too much about your character, but the reason I would say Finn is a better leader is because Delmore already has a bias as to how things tend to end up in most situations, which isn't bad, but it causes him to be more overly cautious than most, which isn't the best option for times. Whereas Finn is green to the ways of the world, works for the most part, so his answers and decisions tend to be simpler and more to the point. Man, they talked about like boring mechanical reasons here, but like it sure is D&D, and it's hard to be a leader of people without a high charisma score, and the whole party except for Peregrine dumped charisma. So it's like or had lower charisma at least. So that's usually why that happened. And they're like mechanical. Like we were using Ghost of Salt Marsh, and there's like mechanical abilities that every crew member can do. I know that didn't really come up a lot on the show, but it was meant to. Um, and so that you would struggle to be a captain with low charisma and try to use some of those abilities. Uh, Best crew jobs would be Perry's the surgeon, Oslo's the lookout, Delmore's the first mate, Finn is the captain slash nav. So, yeah. So it just looks like there's a lot of misunderstanding on like what the rules are as they exist in Ghosts of Salt Marsh, and that makes sense because the nautical rules are super obscure and weird, and unless you're doing it a nautical campaign, why would you even look at them? Um, but yeah. Elmore said he didn't know much about the ship and looked to Perry to help on board. Yeah, Perry is also the only sailor on the group. Um, yeah, and the whole thing of like us operating in a future time outside of this as we record episodes in the future. So you get things like there are coming episodes will change your opinions on our characters. I guarantee it because we know what's coming. Uh, some Shakespeare jokes. My theory is a combination of extreme exhaustion combined with Enter the Phoenix core has got Delmore all crazy sauce. So Phoenix is very heated and passionate, so that, and with Delmore being in tune with magic and being exhausted, has caused him to be more susceptible to the heat of the Phoenix emotions he was feeling about the Alliance all just boiled over. At least that's my theory. Um, oh, no, we lost ourselves. We need to get back. Sorry. Got a DM that I switched to because my ADD. Dwayne's like, yeah, nope. Yeah, no, he's not just hot. Yeah, Dwayne plays to his character. Shane will always have a plan for every encounter. That's a given. We will always do our thing. Also a given. Always more than what Andrew Gilmore told exactly what he should have done. Try and rescue his friend. Yeah. So thoughts from everyone about how do you think the crew is going to do with the handoff of the Phoenix? And I don't want answers from the crew because I know how much y'all have already recorded and then what's anything you say is spoilers. My wife came into this chat, it looks like, to get gift ideas for me without, it looks like it's around Christmas, uh, without alerting me because she knew that I could come. Very clever. I do love clementines. Strong as alcohol, you find with enough fruit juice to change the color. I definitely don't want toe socks. What exactly do you want to come when you cut the sword, so to speak? Because from what I could tell, Shane wasn't having it. Yeah. Yeah. That was a method from which Iono could communicate with Perry by just giving like a little squeeze to guide her to be on the right path. So when she cut the cord, she cut that guidance to her patron. It's a cool glaive, man. That double-sided fucking gnarly glaive. What is Perry's movement speed? Like 30 feet. D&D Beyond magic items, Saltwater's Kiss, Sea Rend, and Snow Splitter. Kayla, yeah, she says, thanks for the awesome suggestions. All right. Tex says, so here's my ultimate theory for the whole campaign. All 4 individual stories are linked. I'm going to say that the tree people are working with the Alliance, which is why their magic is stronger than everyone else's. No, their magic's stronger than everyone else's because they have an innate tie to the Magewood. And everywhere that it's planted connects that strength and that network of power. And that's basically by controlling groves of Magewood all throughout the Sapphire Seas, because there's not a single island in the Sapphire Seas pretty much that doesn't have Magewood planted on it by specifically these druids from Finnegan's Homeland. That is where their power comes from. They're not working with the Alliance. I'm going to say the Alliance is involved with pirates attacked Perry and her family. No, Perry was not attacked. Her family was not attacked by pirates. That was 100% an Alliance airship that dropped bombs on her. It was basically they had gotten word of these pirates. They needed an easily dispatchable target that they could test their munitions on. But it was also small enough that like wouldn't garner a whole bunch of attention, so they could still try to keep their airship on the DL for as long as possible. It had nothing to do with pirates. And the Alliance is involved with what's going on with Oslo's backstory as well. We don't know much about her. Yeah, we never learned much about Oslo. Her family, she came from an island of like misfit creatures. Her mother was like a bugbear. And her people were subjugated by the Alliance a long time ago, and she was basically looking for revenge. So you would note there would be times when she'd get really interested in like an individual as she was trying to chase down the threads of the people that had done this to her family. Another thing that didn't really come to fruition, unfortunately, based on just kind of the way things shook out, but that's just the way it went down. I think someone is Alliance plant, to be honest. No. There was a lot of this from the group as well, and I think this comes from just a fundamental lack of understanding of like scrying spells. But no, there was no spy on the ship at any point. Barnabas, a lot of people say Barnabas is the spy. He's not. He wasn't. He was loyal. Kill Silvery does too much. Fizzle, we don't know how he got to the menagerie. He swam there as a shark. He just didn't really remember it because it was like a fight or flight kind of thing, like him tapping into his powers the first time. Even as a level 1 druid, he can't even wild shape yet, but he was able to do it one time. Well, Delmore is most likely going to be the first to die, so it's not him. He also does not like the Alliance. He was part of the Alliance. He was, a big guy in the Alliance, but definitely not a fan. Who here thinks that old Barney is the Bloody Baron? This guy right here. Cool. So I'm not the only one who saw through that. If you listen carefully, you can hear me typing during the episode because I made such a shame to ask. See, now I'm thinking he telegraphed like that on purpose, and we find out the rail is actually the Bloody Baron. No, absolutely not. Yeah, it wasn't supposed to be much of a secret. Barnabas is the Bloody Baron. In the last episode, Shane said Rail was drinking a lot. Did Perry make him an alcoholic? Yeah. Think about it. Yeah, he's just fucked up. He's just fucked up, and he doesn't understand this world that he's in very much. And he thought that he found somebody else that was, in a way, like him, and that he'd never experienced that before. So he was just really excited, not necessarily in a romantic way at that point, but just very much like no one has ever been like me before. So that was cool for him. Oh, there's people in the chat. Yeah. Let me take a look here. Yeah, first drink Perry gives him, he choked. Yeah, he's not much of a drinker up to that point. Yo, who the fuck put all these ghosts in my tub? This ain't the bat bomb I wanted. Nope. Nope. David Jones and Iono are both just trying to bring the souls of sailors to Sapphire to win her. She loves and appreciates all of them. Um, there's a difference though. So Iono, every time a sailor comes into his embrace, he like lovingly just passes it off to Sapphire. Every single time he gets a soul, passes the soul. He just here you go. Oh, I found a flower. Here you go. Oh, I found a flower. Here you go. As he gives her gifts, whereas Davy Jones keeps them in his locker as like bartering. He's like, hey man, I know you want these souls to be happy. Love me. Um, and that's kind of his relationship. So it really chases me when he gets weekends and holidays. I get the feeling of, oh fuck, shit is getting real whenever one meets with a god. Can't we just like get a coffee with God and be chill? Yeah, we can totally just be chill with Iona. He's a cool dude. Yeah, you want the trickster gods? They're the chill ones. Yeah, just poof you into the tavern, man. Let's drink. Uh, Every time she curses, she drinks. She shrinks an inch. That is fun, fun Oslo curse. I wish I would have been able to steal that. Frankly, um, it's for sure something that Shane would do. Yeah, it is. But she would shrink right out of existence. Oh yeah, Pokemon. Hooray, Pokemon! I guess you're prepping your "I'm a fucking dragon" voice. Yeah, you got to, man. I have. Believe me, I have been. Not gonna lie, "I'm a fucking dragon" was one of the earliest things I practiced saying in Oslo's voice. Yeah, I practiced the same voice with Finn. You never know who gets to become a dragon. He does take flight very soon. That's funny. Uh, so if Delmore kicks the bucket, who would he will Ryder to, or is it a Barry with him kind of relationship? Ryder dies first. It would be good. Um, just send him to the pound. It's fine. Ryder's program is to protect. If he doesn't die protecting Delmore, he'd probably the party or wander around looking for Delmore's knights and protect them. So it stands to reason that if the jackal is on the flying ship, it is probably not the alliance's only one. I meant Delmore's opinion of him leads you to believe he's not the highest ranking hound, which would make you figure the stronger hounds would have more important missions. So I'd imagine there's a small fleet of these things, and he thoughts. Agreed, it's not one ship. I bet the higher ranking hounds all have them. Wouldn't surprise me. I also bet there are more riders. Maybe different animals are stronger. So yes, each of the hounds did have a hound. Each one of them had a rider. Each one of them had their own hound, which unfortunately, because of what happens with Delmore, we didn't really see a lot of. But Belgian had her own. All the different hounds had their own mechanical hounds designed with the technology from Delmore. But there was only one ship. There was only one flying ship in all the alliance. They didn't make it. So there was one flying ship that was brought to them from the mainland. So somebody went on an expedition, found this this flight drive effectively brought it back, and they were able to install it onto their ship. So they just have the one, but the Hounds are the only ones who use it. It is like the Hounds ship that they use to get from place to place and do their priority missions. So fuck the Jackal, he a bitch. Yeah, that freaking thing is the worst. Alright, my dog's getting loud around there. Rock and rollers. One thing I'm still not sure about is Ryder had to get deactivated because that's how Delmore was being tracked, but now he's active again. Isn't that going to be a giant blip on their radar once again? I operated under the assumption that because we wanted to build things so that when you got big class elements, when you leveled up, you'd been working on them for a while. That's why I wanted to show Finnegan wild shaping before he could wild shape. Like, yeah, being able to do it on cue in combat is important, but you still have the potential to tap into that, right? So he spent 3 levels basically fine-tuning Ryder from level 1 where he was just like a head in a bag and rebuilding him from the ground up. And I just always assumed, I guess, that in doing that building, he would have not included the tractor, right? Because he built the whole new body. So that was my thought process. Yep. Truckers. Yeah, Shane hates 10 travel. One officer day trips. We do those later. So I was thinking about it today, and also in Perry's backpack is a pickpocket's worst nightmare. Yeah, I mean, hold on a second. Hey, baby, I'm here streaming. So if you want me, you're on camera.
Have you been fed at all?
I'm good.
Okay. He's very
Yeah, just get out of here. Thank you. Sorry about that. My wife just came home. I wanted to let her know what was going on because she didn't see my message I saw. Back down for a bag of trash. Sometimes I wonder if Tex and Zebra secretly already know how the podcast is going. Some of the things you say are so spot on. Yeah, who knows? I'm not saying that you can trust that I'm telling the truth. I booed someone tonight. I have no filter. If you're terrible, you would have been booed. Good to know. It's just me with that 8 damage to Delmore have only been 4 damage from it being a glancing blow. Maybe. I don't know what combat this relates to. If it was from the Jackal, probably, because he had sneak attack. So, he had rogue levels. So, if he rolled a glancing blow and, rolled a 16, it would be reduced to 8. Yes, the Jackal had levels in rogue. Yeah, it was halved already. That's why I told Shane glancing. He knew that I meant and handed me the right number. I've always played together enough that we are in sync on most of those things. Yeah. Wait until you hear he and I do a one-on-one again. And when they aren't in sync, Jen jets out 3 hours of arguments. Yep. Like how this conversation in dark, so Chainsaw can't weigh in. Seems like a lot of damage. 1d4 plus d6 plus 6 would be needed and get max. Seems like low probability, but possible if the dagger's magical. Seems probably he was 1d4 plus 1. No, he had sneak attack, bro. He was rolling more than 1d6 for sneak attack, so. He was level 5. He was a higher level than the PCs because he had to fight multiple PCs of that level. So he's got to be higher for it to be a competitive scenario. It was a deadly encounter for sure. But there was also supposed to be Ozzo was supposed to be in that fight, right? And she just wasn't because of the kerfuffle that happened beforehand. So for level 3s could have likely done the job against level 5. Yeah, that's what I planned on. Any guesses? Any prediction guesses on Finn's new character, and will he appear in Basil Aries' story, or will he be a defector slash spy who rescues Delmore? I'm gonna say half elf ranger. So the Enterprise car rail is gonna be Chris. I kept thinking that I was gonna do that. The campaign didn't end the way that I wanted to, but I did want, in a moment of just absolute despair and there's nowhere we're gonna get through. It's just like the Enterprise Costco shows up, just like, or the Fantasy Enterprise shows up, like, we always get our cars back, but it just never happened. It's Atlas, by the way. That's his new character. That would be very funny. Yeah, a lot of people seem to think that death is never the end meant that uh, there'd be like rescues from the Nine L's or whatever, and that's just was never really the plan. When I say death is never the end, I mean just because your character is put into a situation in which they are reduced to 0 hit points and fail 3 death saving throws, or just are completely overwhelmed, like in the case of Delmore and Finnegan, like narratively. Uh, I intended to always have those player characters just become NPCs. So like death for you is the beginning of that NPC and how I'm going to use them against you. That's what death's never the end means. I think the trees are being chopped down because the magic of them is used to fuel the airships. Devin with the fucking banger of a prediction. No, it's not. The trees are being chopped down because they're very valuable. They're just used for like all of like spell books and like any sort of paper. We all know the paper that mages use is like super expensive for whatever reason. That's made out of mage wood. So it's a super valuable and potent and awesome tree that is just a valuable resource. So it gets forested pretty heavily, which the druids don't like because, as I mentioned, that is their source of power. So that's why they were fighting the foresters. So it might power the airship, but that depends on if Shane took advantage of something mentioned in Oslo's backstory. Well, from Shane's description, it seems like something's life essence by the sounds of it. I was thinking that more of his way of describing being inside a running vehicle as felt by someone who's never felt it before. Yes, that is what I was going for. It didn't necessarily... it's a flight core from the mainland. I won't talk about more than that because we'll be going to the mainland when we return to my turn to DM. So there'll be a time jump, but I don't really want to talk too much about it. Come back, soot sprites, adorable. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then how would Finn have gotten out? They were stuck. Super ambush. They come in day 3. Put surprise route and fun. Finn finds out he can shift it to a giant eagle and they fly away, happiness and rainbows. Or they're cornered the edge of the ship and jump suddenly parry riding Oslo and a full-grown dragon. Yeah, no. No Digivolutions. So the writing to find out the mainland is the setting of the first campaign way back in the day. No, the mainland is not Goron from a long time ago. I'll go ahead. Twin says, "I'll go ahead and crush your dreams." No, because Goron's his, and he'd be mad at me if I did that. If the Lumberjacks are alliance worker, it leads me to believe that the Arcane Tree people aren't exactly oppressing the other tribes. They are trying to protect the other tribes from the alliance by demonizing themselves. With ignorance comes bliss. That is why one of them spat in Finn's face, calling him a traitor, and part of why the tree spirits thanked Perry, implying that they think the intentions were pure and didn't mean any harm by the actions of the parties. It would also explain why the Arcane Tree people were trying to protect the trees, because a lot of their power, of their very power, comes from the trees themselves. And if they can't keep the alliance at bay on their own home turf, it can risk the alliance grabbing the islands and imprisoning all the other tribes. The destruction of the machinery kept the arcane trees from being harvested. I bet that those trees are part of what makes the airships. It's not. But other than that, I can't recall right away, but I believe there was a comment that the ship felt alive when Finn was sneaking in, meaning that parts of the ship were made from wood, and this sort of nature would have given a connection between the two. No, so when I say it's hum and alive, it's really, really trying to describe locomotion and machinery to people who hadn't experienced it. I was just read about that. But Zant Jeketh comes in hard with exactly what I was talking about, the Arcane Tree people and their whole relationship, even with the other tribes, not being assholes and all of that. Yeah, you did it. You did it, Zant. I love to hear what Shane had in mind for Finn and his people, since we may not see this that arc come to a pretty decent resolution. I think the trees also power the ship. No, they don't. He did say I was pretty close on one of my thoughts earlier, which led me to think about all this. Okay, so I may have guided Zant a little bit to that. So if Alex ever shows up for recording, you'll know why. So did I miss something? I know we saw Finn die, and I get it would have been boring to just keep cutting back to Captain Delmore. Not to mention, not a lot of fun for Dwayne to play a prisoner while the campaign moves on. But as far as I could tell, he was too valuable to kill. So why does everyone talk like he's dead? No hope that he'll reappear in a later episode. I mean, they were trying to pry him for information on the exact place the crew is heading. Yeah. He's too valuable to kill, so they keep him as a prisoner. But effect. So that was Delmore dying and becoming an NPC. That's what he did. Death is never the end. So yeah, he obviously does come back later. I personally don't think either is dead. Ooh, but they are both Shane's characters now. Knowing what I know is Shane, we shall see them both again. You got it. Wings Crew have been regarding him as dead because Shane's warning of death is not the end. More likely entailed that if Delmore returns, he won't be under Dwayne's agency. Correct. Finn is dead. I'm certain of it. Wrong. I would be angry if Shane makes Delmore a bad guy. Wrong. I would be angry if Shane uses him for profligate storytelling, like a victim or publicly murdered, etc. Yeah, I did that. I don't think he'll be bad, but I also don't think you'll necessarily get to play him again if he does show up. I gave him the option. He chose to take it, so he came back as Delmore. Right? Character. I expect his character not be ruined. Captain makes sense. Well, he's now a Terminator, so there's that. Brainwash mind control could, but it would feel lame. No, bro, there's spells in 5e for that. Like, brainwashing and taking actions. Like that's. I don't think that would feel lame or cheap. I just, damn, you don't get your character killed. I won't be able to do stuff with it. Love potion. Every so often breaks free. Lol, makes run for it, but is ultimately caught and forced fed the potion by the jackal. Ooh. I trust Shane to have better storytelling sense than I have him brainwashed. I didn't have him brainwashed, but it wouldn't have been bad storytelling. I mean, there's mechanics in D&D to let you do that. Um, so yeah, I can't imagine Delmore under control or turn, but I could see him as a hostage or found by the crew as a prisoner, somehow being manipulated. I mean, I don't want to be too dark, but I think after a time, if they kept murdering innocents in front of Delmore until he gave them more designs, he might eventually break to stop the cruelty. But I don't know if Shane would want to take it to a dark place that broke Delmore. Because of the nature of what happens to Finn with his rapid evolution and the poison entered into his system, Delmore's true great strength became like being a calming presence for Monster Finn. So he was like double too valuable. That you can tell by the fact that he shows up with like his teeth pulled that they did try some torture and they did try to do some things to break him, but short of doing things that would cause Delmore to like swear infinite revenge on you. His will was just too strong to be broken by hurting him. And if they just went out, my opinion is if they just killed murdered innocent people in front of Delmore over and over again to try to get his complicity, like eventually he probably would do the thing that you were asking, but also you would turn your back one day and he would destroy you. Like he's too smart to take that lightly. I'm still convinced Finn is alive as well. As Delmore, Finn is basically Darwin's wet dream. Rather than years, he adapts in moments. Yeah, exactly right. 3 days, his body would have built a resistance to the poison. Even worse. However, I go so far as, for narrative's sake, they would separate Finn and Delmore, use Finn as a bargaining chip for Delmore to create for the Alliance. I mean, Delmore has already figured out he can put bugs in his creations. Maybe he can find a phrase to activate a chain or a certain protocol that would. Yeah, he tried to do that a little bit in his fight against the Jackal. Like, I'm going to tap into his programming, but you have to realize that these things have been. Delmore isn't the only scientist in the world, and he did create these things, but they have been altered since. He's just going through what I'm going through right now. No, I like the idea of Perrin also stealing your guys' old companions for their own uses. Since Finn died on a ship, can't Rail bring him from Davy Jones' locker? Ooh. Davy Jones and Iono. I wager have power over the sea, and those who die at the sea with rights and without. That's exactly right. They're even in a ship, maybe pushing it. Now, if Finn was tossed with the ship into the water, he just didn't die, so. Just, they just didn't die, so they never really came up. They'll have to get back to the menagerie before he'll leave. Not to mention, I'm not sure. I miss roll sixes. Gonna be real tight. Hard biscuits, ginger. I'm gonna die. I still think Finn is alive. He's super. So, does Garrett seem like an unlikely friend of the rebellion, given the role they seem to have played in the explosions that took out his family? So, the resistance was not responsible for that attack. That attack was taken on by the extremists of Anima's Ire, which is like the one big side quest that the group kind of pushed to the wayside, was going up to Glashik, the frozen north, and convincing Anima's Ire to join. I really looked forward to that, actually, for Garrett to go back and face the ones that were responsible for the death of his wife and daughter, but never happened. They didn't want fucking Anima's Ire assholes in their voyage, and I don't blame them. Do you guys just doom Rombius by dragging Ryder, the potential Trace beacon there? Who's to say? Shanesaw is to say. Is he, though? As DM, he gets to decide how the Knights found Rombius. So how did the Alliance find Rombius? Well, they've always known where Rombius is. That was never, ever, 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 ever a concern. The problem was getting to Rombius, right? The problem was getting there, getting under, the Spears of Jones, these giant coral mountains that protect Rombius, without, the disc that they used to go under. You only know that option would be over. So what that comes into is a big issue as far as. That's Kayla. What's up, baby?
Do you have the battery for me to pack?
It's we literally only have one.
Oh.
The other one broke.
I didn't realize. Okay.
But you can pick one up just anywhere, pretty much. So they have you when our story starts, the first problem we see is Peregrine's, where they're taking the ship through its paces and testing its munitions. All of these things are established in the timeline for like the research and development, and then they're taking the ship around with the jackal. They're doing all these things. They're putting the ship through its paces so they can invariably launch an assault on Rombius, which our characters were there almost like step by step for. And then when they show up on Rombius, they just didn't know what those steps had meant and what we're leading to, which resulted in just a massacre. Um, Nobody really picked up on that. Like I tried to make like a big deal of how hard it was to get here and how they had to go under, and I was hoping, oh, but they have an airship, and that would prompt the situation, but it just didn't work out that way. Um, when it comes time, if you want to challenge Chainsaw and tell him no, that's not what happened at all. I don't listen to him hysterically as that conversation plays out. Uh, Suspicion confirms Chainsaw is not the DM. He's in fact a ghost PC in some fugue state who narrates his entire life as he follows the crew around. Yeah, that's it. Oh dear lord, it was TPK. Now they're all Kinkus. No. Pecan Bits. Keep waiting for this fabled Pecan Bits episode. It's got to show up sometime. Episode 27 is Pecan Bits. Changes accidentally murder you all in episode 27. Is that why we did the questions for the crew and Dad's preparing harder for C3? Oslo, keep the ship fins on her, because y'all might be a bit lighter on gold than you thought, as everything about y'all most recent paychecks is in the compass's hold. Yeah, the Bank of Oslo is FDIC insured. Multi-class and a barbarian. I love a barbarian. Scald. The artillery class is broken. A lot of the we talked about what you could do as far as in terms of Artificer was a brand new class when this campaign came out. I still don't know how I feel about it, but Cherry drives Night Ray. Yeah, I didn't use that one because Shane said he would be nerfing it as it went. No, I definitely just came out and said like, "Oh, your temp HP is broken," because it is, and that there would probably be a nerf on it. Going to make a tiny spire that attaches a gear to a gear-esque watch, so I'll attack and then use it ballista style as 2d8. Ah, yes. Ah, yes. Uh, Prior to death, it's a pretty strong ability unless the DM targets. I reread this section. Let me say it's a pretty strong ability unless the DM targets it specifically, but it does fall off at later levels, though no one ever makes it to those. Yeah, that's what we talked about. Custom weapons for the crew. What did you think of Perry's headphones off moments? I'm curious. Headphones off, man. What an idea that I tried. You'll notice we don't use them in C3 because it made a lot of the player characters in my campaign feel as if they weren't as involved in other people's stories and couldn't cheer for them. So that ended up being a little bit of an issue. Hi, not my wife. Yeah, respect. Yeah, I think it was fun for the listeners too, and I still think that there's plenty of way to immerse yourself in your character and not know everything that's happening in the story simultaneously. But The crew didn't like the headphones off moments. Womp. Now it's time to prepare the position to kill someone or not. We've got the fine print on that. Like if she assists in combat against a human, but say totally hypocritically, someone takes her hand and drives a dagger into their throat, does it count? Yeah. We talked about it, and it was very much just like you have to like kill a guy. You have to have like the intent to like murder and end a life. And we talked about that. I wasn't going to be shisty about that. I'm not convinced that Shane's going to crush us and Perry by having Rail jump in, save Perry by killing someone, avoiding his contract with Davy, damning him to whatever fate that is. Well, we all love Rail. It would only make it so juicy for someone to die, not another PC that deserves vengeance. Yeah, that was the plan. Because of that, Wick ties to some kind of retribution. Oh, that'd be so mean. Yeah, well. The timeline was Shane and I recorded that episode. I took a week-long solo hiking trip, which I had ample time to grab my decisions. You said the thing, and I perished inside a little because I was the only person at the time who knew you'd said it and lived it. So I hit with the old, "Oh, that'd be so mean." Yeah, rip Rail. Well, the guy you didn't kill yourself when you started looking for something to ride on. Like, oh damn, it's a suicide note. That was the plan, but when Rail comes on in, he says he has a solution. Perry's too scared, desperate, and grasping at straws to question it. If Mr. Jones only picked her because he had such a vested interest in Rail, saw he could leverage his feelings for her against him. I mean, you asked the man the question yourself. Why, Perry? Yeah, I think that Rail was always in Davy Jones' eyes the perfect fit. He wants a vessel, obviously. That is, I mean, he'll take whatever. But if it was Perry, it was Perry. Hooray for him. But he would have preferred Rail always. Do you plan on using newfound powers to make Jones give Perry back her man? We talked about that. We do not see it working on a god. Correct. The Empress powers, I believe, from the tarot cards. It's not the actual god. It's Rail being possessed by the god spirit. No, it's Rail's mortal body serving as a vessel for a god. Yeah, you could definitely use banishment. You'd have to get the spell off, but you could do it. Legendary resistances are a bitch, and gods definitely got them. I'm not sure what Shane would do about that. You would have to get the spell off, and then it would be I would make it very difficult for you to get the spell off. First of all, right? Just because spell slots and legendary resistances and pretty high saves naturally and counter spells, and there's a lot that can go wrong trying to get to that point. But if you got the banishment off, there would be a reaction from that, from a god being banished, being angry about it, and it would be difficult for you to maintain your concentration for the minute required. We would be some rolls. I would be rooting for you the whole time, and it would be a very cool conclusion. It would banish Rail's body as well, so you'd be banishing. It's not like you could just banish the spirit out of him, and then keep Rail. You'd be locking Rail away as well, but it could definitely have happened. Let's see here. Jones isn't free to play back either. I'm not sure what she can do about that. Actually, thinking about how banishment works, if it did send Jones away, it would cancel his magic effects too. So in theory, he would lose. No, he's a god, and the deals that he makes with his children, his souls, do not go away just because he's banished. In fact, banishing even him back to his home plane wouldn't stop him for long, because it. Let me look at banishment real quick. I'm gonna have to pull this up. You attempt to send one creature you can see within range to remove existence. Target must see the charisma saving throw. If the target is native to the plane of existence you're on, you banish him to a harmless demi-plane. While there, the target is incapacitated. The target remains there until the spell ends, at which point the target reappears in the space it left. The target is native to a different plane of existence than the one you're on. The target is banished with a faint popping noise of returning to its home plane. If the spell ends before 1 minute has passed, the target reappears in the space it left. Otherwise, the target doesn't return. Yeah, so otherwise the target doesn't return. It doesn't say that otherwise the target cannot return. You're not permanently locking him out of your plane of existence just because you cast Banish on him one time. It just means he doesn't, after 1 minute, pop back into the space that he was in. Davy Jones is powerful enough to have other means by which to return to the prime material plane. So that wouldn't quite shake out that way. But it would hurt him. It would hurt his feelings for sure. He'd be mad at you, and you would have put a wrench in his situation. It takes him time and effort to rematerialize in our plane, and he would have to leave probably. I don't know how he would get his vessel out of the locker, but I mean, Shadesall is a fairly rules heavy guy. Methinks, yeah. I also sub in some 3.5 stuff. That's how I would react. I already told you. It's been a long time since the Lawful Stupid reaction was given the advantage. Nah, for that you would just have keep dropping spools of copper wire into the ocean while casting heat metal. It destroys the whole ocean, brings all the boil. Biggest middle finger to Dave Jones there is. Yeah, man. Sometimes there's casualties. Yeah, try not to fight gods if you can. Destroying the ocean would handily defeat Davy Jones, and also everyone else. Like, you would just die. You need the ocean. Would the Phoenix Reaper solve all their problems for settling the mainland, albeit a couple hundred years away from happening again? No. So you got to think that the Phoenix's rebirth has like an AOE effect that was harnessed by the proprietor, so he's got that in his back pocket. But well, I guess he doesn't have it in his back pocket. What you guys don't know is that the prior was told basically if he leaves the menagerie, he will die. If that happens, he will die. That fate was laid upon him. So knowing that, he made his own little Phoenix favor, stepped out into the world, left the menagerie, was promptly murdered by an unseen source, an entire unseen conflict actually in the campaign. But the Phoenix favor did return him to life and effectively negate the curse. So whether they came from the mainland before the collapse, who knows? More after predictions and current C2 events. Shane beautifully set up either or both Sky Sun Gear's demise in the last episode by the hands of Sky Song's organization. If they succeeded in the jailbreak, it would create the difficult question of if Delmore and Finn are there and alive. Dwayne and Devin can't have two characters, so perhaps Shane is giving them an out. Assassination in the hands of Sky Song's organization being a loose cannon, knowing the things they shouldn't. Yeah, I did want to give them the option to get their old character back. Delmore did take that. Garrett retired and made potions on the menagerie. I didn't have to assassinate him. That was more of a test of loyalty for Sky Song, and we know how that shook out. So, see, there's the thing. I think this Sky Song works for the actual bad guys. He works for the foe, which is a minor organization, honestly, in the grand scheme of things, but still a pretty big organization. But one of the lower players, really, in the end game. Well, like I said, it got the choice of who they want to play, and their counterpart will be dead before the end of the siege. No, I ain't killed nobody. I didn't need to. Totally unlikely, but Garrett goes down fighting an undead Finnegan who is guarding Delmore. Seeing his bestie go down trying to save Delmore causes Sky Song to abandon his orders to assassinate the ex-hound. Sorry if this seems gauche to anyone, but here's my attempt at guessing Perry's post-show arc, which I think may have speculated somewhere before, albeit tough to predict knowing they recorded waste already. So here goes. Assuming that Rail Jones' issue is yet to be resolved, Jones is still wreaking havoc across the seas. Perry has returned by now, successful in her endeavor to find Sapphire and establish power in her own. Sapphire sparks something inside Perry. She becomes a sorceress and returns to the crew. But Jones is vindictive. He likes to make people suffer, and while he wants to crush the power the Alliance has over the seas, he takes it as a bonus to torture Rail by bringing pain to anything Perry loved. Seems about right. Word of Jones' cruelty to other pirates in Perry's name reaches her, and she decides she must face Jones but cannot risk the lives of her crewmates and sets out alone. In her confrontation, Jones sees a spark of power given to her by Sapphire, and the one he loves and wants to be more than anything, but albeit power is Perry's own powers, conduit to Sapphire, and Jones, as he is known to do, strikes the final bargain with Captain Turn. He will not give up Rail's body, but he will share it if in turn Perry allows herself to be conduit to Sapphire until she returns in her dragon form. Perry and Rail have the days together in control of themselves, and as the sun falls below the waves, Jones and Sapphire take their turn, giving Jones the chance to court her love each night in hopes of earning her favor. That's a good ending. Um, Probably better than the one that we ended up with. But the levels of exhaustion alone would be nightmarish. It's a good idea, Zebra. But and you're not wrong. The connection that Peregrine had to Sapphire was meant to later be of some use, or like a bargaining chip with Davy Jones, or an admonishment perhaps from our Sapphire to her beloved suitor. But it just, because of the things that happened in real life, didn't come to fruition. Technically, these places not should recognize as a server owner, ergo he can see all channels no matter what, unless he has a channel muted and has the hide muted channels option for the turn check, which would hide the channel until he gets pinged. That's exactly what I did, because I am the server owner, but I hid the channel and muted hide channels, and it's like, yeah, it's an honor code. I just didn't do it. No, I probably wouldn't. I like my stories. I don't rewrite them. Shane does not look in here, and he gets to, when the campaign ends, we did the same thing with me, and it was fucking hilarious. There are things that I learned that other people did or would do. That's what I'm doing now. It's super fun. What you don't know is during my season, I will live here and use your ideas, and then just say you were smart. Except you're not the server owner and won't be allowed in. Get fucked. I wonder if Shane's allowed in here yet. Good question. I'm glad I was wrong with Garrett dying so he could take over Delmore and got a peaceful out. Now Shane gets to live out his fantasy of being Crotchety Old Man because Garrett is his now. Hooray. Can't be in here until after tonight. Almost wish he was. Almost wish there was a reaction video of Shane going through these. Well, hooray for you. Be the switch chat. Waiting. Oh, I want to hear live. Okay, my final prediction before Shane shows up. Finn is rescued, but nothing the crew can come up with can restore his body. However, they are able to somewhat heal his mind. With nothing else to do for him, they bring Finnegan to the mainland, which is a dead and desolate place, but Finnegan always adapts. Finn being the primordial ooze, he is now becomes the father of all animal life on the mainland. Varieties of new and old species birthing forth from his flesh and breathing life back into the dead lands. No, that didn't happen. But it's not a bad idea. The mainland isn't empty or desolate, so never really an opportunity there. And obviously Finnegan was brought back by Peregrine's sacrifice, so he didn't need to do that. But yeah, it's It is what it is. So that, I mean, I'm in here now. Soon I say, I'm supposed to drop for C3, first to cast. Shayna's dibs on a human monk is more of a street fighter than a traditional monastery boy. Well, boy, were you wrong. I was a priest, and later I multi-classed to a monk who's definitely a monastery boy because he was a cleric. But yeah, okay. So it looks like we're doing C3. So that's it. I did it. I did it. Zebra for you. So I'm gonna end this video now, but it'll be available on a video on demand. And yeah, thanks for coming out and hanging out with me. Hopefully you got some insights into the campaign that you didn't get before. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you soon with new